Judges chapter 16 verse 28.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry with my pronunciation. I'm not Americanized yet.
No. Leave it alone.
In Judges chapter 16 verse 28, and Samson called to Father Yah. Now, what makes Samson called Father Yah? Now remember, Samson is a mighty man. Nobody compared Samson. No one can even hold Samson during his time. But when he transgressed to Father Yah and the Holy Spirit of Father Yah backs away from him, then he becomes vulnerable, isn't it?
Yes, weak.
Then he became a prisoner. He became a slave. They took his eyes. But at the moment Samson remembered where he came from. You see, the word says, when Samson called to Father Yah. You see, that word alone, called for the meaning, Samson remembers he needs to go back where he came from. He needs to be reminded that he was before the Son of Father Yah. If we can just remember that we are the child of the Most High. Also, when Samson remembered that, he said, "Oh, Master Father Yah, remember me." Now, when Samson says, "Remember me," I know in his heart he is saying, "Forgive me, Father Yah, for the things that I have done." Because Father Yah will never going to answer your prayers if your sin is still in front of you. You will, because what? You can never go to Father Yah. If there is a sin between you and him, you can never be. That's why he said, "Remember me, Father Yah. I pray," Samson said, "strengthen me." And he said again, "I pray one last time." And I know Samson is crying when he's saying these words. Now, remember the scene of Samson when he was the judge of Israel, when he was the mighty man, when he was this, when he was that. And now he sees himself in that place. Nobody even recognized him that he was the judge of Israel. They even mocking Samson. Not only that, they even mock the sovereign almighty of Samson, because Father Yah allows Samson to suffer and go like that kind of mess. Don't wait, Father Yah put you in that category that there's no, just like you are at the bottom of the pit. And we know there are some of us been there. But the good thing is, you see, it's not because we're bottom of the pit. The thing is, what will you do if you were in the bottom of the pit? What will you do? Samson did not ask anything from his people, nor his parents, but there's only way that Samson could do. Walk up, look up, and ask for Father Yah for his forgiveness. Did Father Yah grant Samson his wish? Yes, he did. That's why he said, "If you come to me with a broken heart and a contrite spirit, I will hear your prayers." That's Father Yah is. But the question is, how far we want to be in our mess before we're going to start to look up. How long do we want our nights to be so that we can say morning should come and joy should come? We have the power. Father Yah gave us the power. It's either to prolong our agony, prolong our nights, prolong our crying, or we are going to stop these things and say, "Hey, this is joy for me."
Come on. Thank you.
We have that power.
Yes, sir.
In 1 Samuel, now this is another remember moment. In 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 11, now here's another mother who was barren and asking a gift, a blessing from Father Yah.
Yes, sir.
And do you remember her? Her name is Hannah. And she is asking Father Yah a son. Now remember, she is barren. In 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 11, Hannah made a vow, said, O Father Yah of hosts, if you would indeed look unto the affliction of your faithful servant and remember me. You know, when we were in our mess, when we bend our knees, we promise everything to Father Yah just to grant our wish and our prayers. That's we are. That's we do. But the moment Father gave you what you wish, are we still the same thing? Are we still the same being who promised everything to Father Yah to do this, to do that? Some of us ask for a job. But since your job requires you to work during Saturdays, you said, this Father Yah what gave me as a job. No, my sister. If Father Yah gave you a blessing, there's no such thing as sacrifice added into it. That's what it says. It is upon you if you are going to negotiate or not and what you're going to do with the blessing that Father Yah gave you. It's either you're going to make it as a blessing or make it as a curse. It's up to you. Our brother in San Francisco, in Sacramento, California, been working in USPS for 14 years. And every time they gave him a job to work during Saturdays, he accepted it quick. Why? Because it is part of his job. But the moment Father Yah opened his eyes, now, what's my word? The moment Father Yah opened his eyes and was convicted that he is going to observe every Shabbat, Father Yah gave him the courage to talk to the boss. And he tells him, boss, I'm not going to work anymore in Shabbat. And you know what the boss said? I will do my best. And last night he said, for the last 7 years, they changed the schedule, but his schedule did not change. He is still having Shabbat as his day off. You see, all we have to do is ask. Just ask. Do you remember David? When he committed adultery with the wife of Uriah? You know do you know what Nathan said? Father Yah told to Nathan, I gave you this, I gave you that. I chose you even though you are the smallest among your household. If these things is not, it's like if this thing is not enough, all you have to do is ask. He is the king, but David thinks he can do everything that he wants to do. Yeah, you can, but at the end of the day, judgment comes. Father Yah said, son, if you just ask, you don't need to commit sin just to have this. All you have to do is ask. That's the irony of us. Sometimes we forget that Father Yah is a loving Yah. We forget that. Sometimes we thought that if we are not going to do this, to do that, as if we are going to be the end of the world. No, it's not. No, it is not. And Hannah said, and not forget your female servant, but shall give your female servant a male child. Then I I shall give him to you
Come on.
all the days of his life. Did Hannah receive his request, her request?
Yes.
Yes, she did. Not only Samuel become her son, she had more after Samuel. But what is the reason, or what makes Hannah to ask this to Father Yah? Hannah observed and do what Father Yah told her to do.
All right.
She is an obedient woman. Can we do the same thing? In 2 Kings chapter 20 verse 3, another remembrance. And I want you to remember who is this guy that put into this setting. Who's this? King Hezekiah, isn't it? Now let us remember a little bit who is Hezekiah. Hezekiah is the king.
Yes.
And Yesaiah, who is the prophet during his time.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you remember Hezekiah, Hezekiah had a sickness that Father Yah pronounced that he is going to die with his sickness. Now, as a king, put yourself into Hezekiah's place. As a king, Hezekiah has all the powers to call all those doctors, those magicians, those people whom he thinks can cure his disease, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is true. But remember this. Yesaiah told Hezekiah that he is going to die with this disease. It was pronounced already. But instead of going, calling his doctors, instead of calling this, calling that, there is one thing that Hezekiah did, even though he is the king. What he did? First, he humbles himself. Now, as a king, don't put yourself above anybody else, even to Father Yah, because you think you are as righteous as you think. Hezekiah humbled himself, and then he started to pray to Father Yah with tears in his eyes. Hezekiah said in verse 3, I pray to you, O Almighty Yah, remember how I walk before you in truth and with a perfect heart. Now, if we are in Hezekiah's place, if we are going, and Father Yah said, you're going to die tonight, what shall we do? You see, it's not the problem that besets us